most barbaric nature is all too often in the forefront of our news and consciousness. But we're going to counter this with an equally strong awareness of our human resilience and connection, our tenacity, our love, and how small acts of kindness can keep alive a spirit of hope, endurance, and the summoning of a different future. So we're going to read in turn. Could I ask you to make sure your phones are turned off or on silent, please? And would you kindly keep any applause you might have until the very end of the sequence so that we don't interrupt the atmosphere of the poems? And I won't introduce the poets by name, I will do that at the end.
Start here. Let this be a day to go easy on yourself, a day to love yourself as others love you, to accept your imperfections and embrace your mistakes, a day to tame the beast in your head that snaps and snarls at you. How stupid! You are a work in progress. Each setback is part of the process. This is a day to make peace in your heart, to be as forgiving to yourself as to your dearest friend. And you are not alone. We'll do this together. Hold my hand. This is the day. Let's start here.
The title of this poem is Old Saxon, meaning kin, kind, race, tribe. Kuni. Who decides we are not kin, not worthy of care or inclusion, not a part of our tribe? Who chooses, when shut out of a donut shop, to turn on a woman, push them to the ground? And who chooses to put his arm around the woman, protect her from bullies? What fear of difference can drive 6 armed people to shoot Alex Pretty 6 times at point-blank range, and then all 6 claim he was the aggressor? This beautiful American of Italian descent, this nurse giving intensive care to others, this kind man, I claim as kin.
This poem is dedicated to my godmother, Anita Spiegeler. It's called Surrogates. She lives exactly 100 meters above sea level. Her neighborhood, a maternal mount, proffering tram lines, pavements, and apartment buildings to a benign sky. Soft grey and dirty white set against the green canopy from the park on the downward slope at the end of her street. Inside her ground floor flat, velvety half-light turns each room into a cozy womb. At the back, my gaze is drawn to a garden that was once a haven for countless children. Swinging climbing frame now rusting, cherry tree a ghostly stump. Here, we polish off a bottle of bootleg champagne. Here, she offers comfort the way a mother would, says I'll never be too old for that.
This poem is called The Kindness of Towns. I'm a child again, barefoot on summer sand at a bend in the River Eden. Out of the water I scramble, teeth chattering, hurl myself into the outstretched towel my brother holds high. Ah, the comfort of it, the rub, the weight, the warmth. What an unassuming item is a towel. the labours it performs, the silences that lie dreaming in its folds. I open my linen cupboard to gaze at the towels lying in neat stacks on slatted wooden shelves. I sink my face into their soft cotton field fragrance. I think of their makers, the hands that have touched them, the bodies they have held, wet infants, wounded soldiers, elders too frail to bathe themselves. Outside, a row of bath towels hangs pegged to a long, propped up line. The wind and rain are having a good go at them. Should we bring them in, I wonder? No, no, says the friend who's visiting. Leave them be. They love the rain.
The next poem was inspired by a photograph that appeared in the papers quite widely. And it's called "This Hand Will Not Be Bitten." A man in Gaza feeds a tide of cats because his neighbours were killed, because his children were killed, because his house was bombed to rubble, because his land was burnt to waste. One by one, the cats brush up against him, because they remember the prophet's hand, because his empathy finds a way, because their kindness finds a way, because this life will find a way.
In the loud cafe, next to the cabinet of cakes, the ancient man with a quiet suit and liver spots fell to the ground, and my friend grew fast wings and flew like a nurse bird to his broken head. She cupped his face and dabbed the blood, then wiped the clots with a tiny Kleenex from her pocket and carefully typed numbers into her phone. She did not know him. I stood back, yellow-bellied. I squirmed at the sight of red, nearly fainted. She never flinched, like a medic, like a mother. Her small bravery put me to shame, showed me that for all my pretty words about love, kindness is an in-the-moment, selfless movement.
The title of this poem is Kintsugi, which is the Japanese art of repair in which the fault becomes a part of the object and enhances it. Kintsugi. We linger over breakfast, and time and again your mother's attention is snagged by a hairline crack on the inside of her cup, running through the wings of a butterfly, tea-stained now after so much use. On the outside of the cup, the crack divides a spray of violets where she sets her lips. When you ask her if it affects the taste of the tea, she answers, "Not to my mind." And light filters through the porcelain with a soft sheen everywhere except the line of that crack, as her mind flits like a sparrow on the feeder. "This cup has a crack in it," she announces. "Yes," you say, for the third time in as many minutes. "It's been there a while. It's quite old. And I hear you trying to mend that precious fracture with a seam of lacquered gold."
poem is about the power of kindness to change things in the face of fascism and the importance of kindness in small things as an act of resistance. René Nicole-Good was fatally shot in Minneapolis on January the 27th, 2026. Leaving a legacy of kindness. Her mother tells us she was one of the kindest people she's ever known, extremely compassionate, took care of people all her life. When confronted with ICE, René told them she was not mad, meaning angry, meaning forgiveness. Her killer called her a fucking bitch, wanted her to be scared. Her warm smile told a different story. Domestic terrorist, a pacifist observer, met state-sponsored fascism. As Cherokee and Dakota met ethnic cleansing, René leaves us with solipsist sunset, Stetson Hills, and the piddly brook of her soul.
In terrible times, while nation rages against nation for the last drop of oil, while bombs rain on children in the name of profit, not profits, while the rich grow richer by soiling the seas and rivers, let neighbour turn to neighbour for solace. Let us swap coats with each other. Let us shop and cook for one another. Let us sing together until our voice is one glorious chorus. Let us wait for the old and frail to unlatch doors with chimes of, "Thank you, young man, how kind." On Wednesdays and alternate weekends, let us plant seeds together in cities, knowing that we prepare a bed fit to lie in, and we shall rest in it alongside each other and survive a season that is no longer recognisable and shall be known by another name. So I'm going to finish with the meditation that Bishop Hanakara did at the end of his speech at the Washington Memorial, where the presidents are sworn in. And the two practices of Buddhism, of the Theravada, is mindfulness and loving kindness. And they call it metta. So I'm going to invite everybody who would like to put your right hand on your heart and then put your left hand over it. And all we're going to do is to take 3 long, mindful breaths. And with the first breath, I want you to hold yourself and all your nearest and dearest in your heart. And with your second breath, I want you to think of everyone you know and hold them in your heart. And with the third breath, to hold the whole world and all living beings, plant, animal, human, the elements. Hold it all in your heart as you take the third breath. Thank you.
So that's the end of our poems, and that meditation is a beautiful way to finish. I'm just reminded by last week had one of those days where I was on the phone most of the day to car insurance companies trying to get a lower quote. And one of them, I won't say which one of them had an answer machine that said, "Our motto is, let kindness be your fuel." And I thought, well, that's good, I'm going with you. And I did. So that's the end of our pose. Let's applaud all the wonderful poses. Each one individually as well. So Emma Bolton, Morag Kisevich, Stephen Boyce, Tessa Strickland, Dawn Gorman. Thanks to Dawn for stepping in at the last minute. Michelle Diaz, Dee Ann Adrians, and Rachel Klein, especially for that lovely meditation for helping me. We do have, some of us have some books on the table if you want to look at them, and if you want to come and ask any questions or ask any questions from the floor or say anything, you're very welcome.
I just wanted to say a quick word on behalf of the Good Heart and the Kindness Festival to thank you all so very much for coming here. This whole event arose out of a series of causations, as happens. Rosie was here last year, and we had a wonderful day on forgiveness. One of the people who led a workshop on forgiveness is here today, Barbara. And Rosie said afterwards, I was so inspired, I would love to do something in next year's Kindness Festival. And you did, you absolutely did. Thank you so much, and spoke to other people and brought them together. And this is the last day of 8 days of event, all kinds of different things, but it's just touched me so deeply, and I think it really, really encapsulates what we're about. We've noticed during the week it's the conversations, the connections that are happening between people, the small things. In the market this morning there was a tub of daffodils and it said Kindness Week, please just take some. You know, it's things like that have been happening this week, which I feel very much came up in your poetry, alongside this terrible, huge international backdrop that we've got at the moment that, is so confusing and distressing and hard to relate to. And your poems tonight really held all those different things together for us. So thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Yes. I want there to be a kindness festival in every town and city.
I think it's wonderful. See, you say that. This year, for the first time, we did sprout another one. There was a weekend kindness festival in Bradford-on-Avon, just up the road, just over the border in Wiltshire, which was the same weekend as our starting weekend. And we're actually beginning to feel that a long weekend is quite sensible compared to 8 days. So we would love to see kindness festivals happen elsewhere, and I think really we're going to put some effort into how we can share how this one's come about. It's 5 years now. And we're talking about writing an A to Z of kindness festivals and trying to be a resource for other places that would like to have one. So if this stimulates anybody, please, we'd love to see them happen everywhere. The other thing I forgot to mention, but it's actually very apparent around us, is that poetry has been a whole theme of the festival this year. Esme, who's here, went into all the schools in Frome, leading assemblies and sharing lesson plans about kindness. Do you want to say something about it for a moment? I'm putting you on the spot.
Well, just to say, I talked about kindness, and then in all the assemblies we wrote kennings together. So the kennings are suspended above you, so these were all written. And then we had hundreds of poems that were submitted, all on the theme of kindness. The invitation was to help us celebrate, and then those poems have gone out into the town in all sorts of different forms. So there are some on the boards, but most of them have gone out as scrolls, as origami, in all kinds of different forms, and so the children have taught us about kindness. And the themes and the messages were really powerful, and I feel like they connect so beautifully with what I've heard this evening. So it's a gorgeous continuation.
So, and this is International Poetry Day. Yes, so if anybody wants to linger a little and enjoy some of the children's poems, please do that. I think Sabar's still open.